Hey there. Just popping on here to share some hot tips about. I get asked this all the time. My clients are usually blown away just with my education around being neurodivergent and the intersection of being neurodivergent and a trauma and how to heal when you are autistic or have ADHD or any types of neurodivergence, as it's all really complex. And again, my background is in physical and mental health conditions. I know everything about all of them. Gigantic neurodivergent nerd. And I've worked in decades with people with disability and trauma who are neurodivergent with both physical and mental health disabilities and conditions. And when we heal from trauma, it can be very different if you are neurodivergent, because a lot of the world comes from the standpoint of this neurotypical mindset, and as there's like kind of like only one way to heal, and then there's a lot of confusion in the like neurodivergent or ADHD or autistic community. And also the labels are, I think, terrible because they have disorder in them. And ADHD and autism are neurotypes that are necessary and needed on our planet, especially now. And there's nothing disordered about that. There always have been neurodivergent people. We have been needed for humanity to thrive, and it's just there's 8 billion of us on the planet, and so of course there's going to be variation in types of people. Of course, I'm recording and coughing, so I'm gonna grab. Don't you love these posts? I'm gonna keep it real and keep going after I check in with myself here. I just recorded a podcast today that's going to come out in a couple weeks, so my talking hours are high today, so my throat's a little low. Spoons takes energy to do these things. So one of the things with because I get asked this a lot, and Gabor Mate, a lot of his research is saying, ADHD is caused from trauma, and sometimes that's true. And there were elements of my ADHD that seemed like ADHD that were elements of trauma. And then there's sometimes not. And so sometimes people can heal trauma and then they realize, oh my goodness, under all this, I actually have undiagnosed ADHD. And so there's still some elements, right, like afterwards or not. So it's both and. So ADHD can be present and after healing trauma or not. Because often ADHD is misdiagnosed because no one is looking at trauma, okay? But it can be both and, okay? So there's that information. Same is true with autism. And you can have both at the same time. So so there's a lot of talk, especially in the like functional medicine, naturopathic world, about cures and things like that. And there's ways that I don't talk about that because there's ways to support and accommodate and help process the trauma no matter what your neurotype is. There's ways to, one of the ways I support ADHD is fish oil and some other supplements. And same with autism, just supplements and things like that. There's nothing wrong with someone having autism or ADHD. I have both, and it's made me the most wonderful practitioner. This is self-reported because I have these long-term interests of helping people heal in spirituality, and then short-term interests that fall within those special interests that helped me get curious not only for my own personal healing, but for the healing of other people. And I think that's a really good thing. I'm also very empathetic, very curious, very creative. I'm a super empath. I have synesthesia and can feel everything they look at and everything in the room, which can be amazing and a lot, but also makes really great energy work. So to be that attuned um, to the environment is awesome. But also that comes with like, bullying and things like that. Because, as a kid, people didn't get it. And in adulthood, it's praised. So there we go. And I want to speak to what a neurodivergent person, that we can actually thrive, because there are many of us that are thriving because we're supported and we're accommodated and our trauma has been processed. And I am a product of that. Um, I left my career in corporate America in sales and medical device sales and pharmaceutical sales, even because it was dysfunctional and created was disabling. I also left nonprofit in the state government for the same reasons, to accommodate myself and work for myself. And so that's the difference. To be able to accommodate, and when you come into my office, the lights are low because I can feel electricity. I feel everything. My shoes are off because I get more information that way, and it helps me regulate my nervous system. Because often for those of us, we feel more. And this gets misdiagnosed as so many things, especially for women, because sometimes it looks like, especially ADHD and autism looks different with women. And so, like, a neurotypical kind of experience of the world is this kind of narrow bandwidth. And this is for someone who's neurodivergent, this is their jump off point. And then here's our experience with even just sensory perception. Like, this shirt is all cotton, otherwise, I will feel like my skin is being burnt alive. And I've cut the tag out because I cannot handle that. Because I'm already processing through probably 5 times more information than the average person through my physical body. So somatic experiencing for me, and I've done the Safe and Sound protocol, which I offer both, have been profoundly game changers, as has integrative mental health. Profound game changers, as has being a disability expert to accommodate myself. All of the ways, truly, that I teach and help people heal, I have applied to my own life. I have gone from being disabled to thriving. And the difference has been the context of my environment as well. So I apply the social model of disability to my life, meaning there's nothing wrong with the person. It is the environment and the attitudes that disable the person. And no place disables a person more so than America, because we do not get, and in fact, we are taught to be suspicious and to hate and to the other. This is in all facets of a society. This is true. And it doesn't work. And typically, the medical model of disability is what is applied, meaning there's something wrong with you. A person, an expert outside of yourself, has to fix you. There's a problem. There's nothing wrong with me. Nothing wrong with you. There's nothing to be fixed here. There's something to be supported, accommodated, and probably trauma processed through. Absolutely. Other than that, it's the integration of all parts and aspects of our trauma to be the expression of our authentic self, which is, for neurodivergent people, we experience so much bullying and so much trauma because we were told so many times that there's something wrong with us, that we're weird, there's something different. We receive thousands and thousands more messages than the average human as to there's something wrong with you, and there's nothing wrong with us. I think there's something right with myself personally, because I love the way that I am, and yes, it's a lot sometimes, but it's helped me become the person I am today. And I often don't talk about these things because I have integrated all of that into my being. I'm not the label. I am the person. And that is my preference. I've been on a healing journey for many decades, and that's where I'm at personally, and you don't have to arrive there. And you can do it your own way because I respect everyone's personal journey because there's who else's journey you're going to be on. And so I want to make sure I made some notes for this one. I want to make sure I covered it all. Oh, yeah. So when I talk about neurodivergence, um, artificial diagnosis or self-diagnosis doesn't there's that's a whole other post as to why someone would self-diagnose, but I don't know, I just looked it up in America. It was about $3,000 to get assessed. And are they even looking for trauma? Are they looking for both? Do they accept your insurance? That's a lot of money. Can people assess that? Because that's just getting the diagnosis. That's that because getting that or self-diagnosis is a jump off point, and there's so many steps beyond that. That's the jump off point, and we move beyond that. There's also this grief process that we go through, and the anger. A lot of people are getting late diagnosed. They feel missed. They feel unsupported. They're like, I don't even know how my brain works. What's going on here? Um, and then there's all this internalized ableism that's in our own selves, in our system. All the stuff that society has said, we've internalized that. People treat people with disabilities terrible, typically. And our body actually, there can be an actual trauma part of you that is internalized ableism within your own system that you have to look at. A part of you that like hates um, the fact that you are neurodivergent and different. Okay, and we got to work with that because the collective becomes part of the macro becomes part of the micro, and that becomes actually lodged in our body, in our spirit, and our minds, as to like a meaningful information and facts, and it's not true. And so because we again our society is dysfunctional, and anyone that is outside of a preferred group, there's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of marginalization and oppression and really nasty things that are said. Let me see what else. I think education is so empowering. I'm such a nerd at these things. I have so many resources, um, because that's again our education. We can co-regulate with that, and again that's like our step two. Like okay, diagnosis or self or official um, diagnosis, and then education. So I'm so glad that there's so much information out there. But at the same time, as many neurodivergent brains as there are there's a lot of individuation in that. Okay, so a lot of these lists that are written, I wrote about this today again on Threads about signs of autism and signs of ADHD. These signs are when someone is dysregulated, often traumatized, definitely accommodated, and unsupported. Because I've really never told you about this, and you've probably thought, wow, she's really competent, she's really involved in her niche, she's very passionate, she loves her. And guess what? I'm why am I that way? Because I'm a supported neurodivergent person, and um, I am thriving, and I've processed my trauma, because that is a potential. That is a potential. And I've supported so many individuals for decades, and I've seen that that is also true. Like this is a universal truth. It's really, really hard for adults because there are more services for children, especially in America, but in adulthood there are really, really a lot less. And then when people are getting late diagnosed, they've missed all of that, and so acquiring a diagnosis or acquiring a disability, acquiring or discovering that you've been neurodivergent your whole life, there is complex trauma that comes with that, and it's so important to really recognize that there's different elements here at play because that's not being touched on. Unfortunately, there's so many silos, and so like in neurodivergent and disability world, the trauma is not being touched on. In the trauma and mental health world, the neurodivergence. I am trying to collapse these paradigms with these a little neurodivergent brain of mine and like integrate so you can know yourself and support yourself better. And be mindful of your spoons. I love the spoon theory. If you haven't looked that up, please look that up because that can definitely apply. to understand. And you know, just learning about unmasking is so important. Um, Hearing and peer support groups are so important. Working with a practitioner that has lived experience is really, really important, because, like I said, I have lived experience, and so I'm going to have a very different viewpoint um, as to what the world is saying about this, and neurotypical people are saying about it. Versus me, like, hey, boo, like, oh, you can do this. Um, I'm going to be a big cheerleader because we need neurodivergent people. We need neurodivergent people have kept us alive through our hunter and gatherer. They're novelty seeking. Probably our ancestors with ADHD. We're finding food and inventing things, and um, a lot of innovations come from autistic individuals. And you know, the really, really gift of both of these things is a high level of empathy. Don't get it twisted. I think that information that's written about there, like people with autism have low empathy. I think that is the the most misinformation out there. No, we feel so much, but we feel everything everywhere all at once all the time, and like it's just so much. And there's high levels of just like the number one thing for me when I journey into the autism within thyself is I have always worked with marginalized individuals, and only now has it like become cool. I guess I have no idea, um, because I'm working with trauma and integrated mental health and aspects of psychedelic integration. And apparently that's collectively cool. I don't know. I've never really cared about that. Um, and we've been necessary. Like this type of information is necessary, and bringing this information is forward is necessary. And it's just part of integrating all aspects of being. That's why I call myself the integrative counselor, to like integrate these systems because they're often so siloed. And folks are trying to reach out for care and I can't get that information because it's only here, only here, only here. And in my journey, it's been like tapas, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, to help honor the full human experience, which does include neurotypes, which is not a disorder to be fixed. It is something to be accommodated and supported. Unfortunately, in our world, there's a lot less support. And oh my gosh, I wrote this horrible article on LinkedIn, which is just ugh. As far as a social media platform, a soul sucking platform, I find it. Um, but I've worked for so many years with people with disabilities and disability disclosure, and it's not going well in the workplace for folks, and it hasn't gone well. I know that because I've had to do that, and it also didn't go well for me. Having even in the field of disability, it did not go well for me. Welcome to Dark Night of the Soul part. I don't know how many, 11. I don't know. We can have multiple, but um, people are getting these diagnoses, and they're doing all of the right things to ask for accommodations, and employers are not getting it. And it's sometimes to the point where people aren't disclosing, and rightfully so. And oh my gosh, I could do a whole talk on that. I could actually do a series of talks on that because it's so individual, it's so specific. Disability disclosure is not only an art form, but a science. Oh, here's what I was going to get to because I lost my train of thought. That's why I was rambling back. I was like, where ADHD is like, special injuries, uh, um, what happens when like with a late diagnosis and essentially acquiring a disability brought on by our society that doesn't get humanity and like how to support people, using the medical model because that is what's disabling people is a societal attitudes and things like that. That's the social model, but if you put them together, still disabling. Um, we don't just automatically learn how to self-advocate. So that's a process. So I always teach self-advocacy skills to individuals. And then we do some role playing as well. And I've worked with employers in so much in the past in my background, so I know how that goes. Um, One of my jobs was to help them understand, including individuals with disabilities, trauma, neurodivergent, mental health conditions, autoimmunity, etc., barriers of all types and kinds, because of my extreme um, allergy to injustices in the world and not including individuals. Hello, autistic, like social justice. Like it's painful for me to witness the things that are happening in the world, like physically painful. And as a person who already feels really deeply, I mean, oh, there's just it's a lot witnessing what humans are doing to other humans because I don't get that. I don't get that at all. Um, like I don't. Um, and that's I know that's it's I don't get it. And we have to learn those skills, and then we have to radical self-compassion, and you have to learn how to be authentically neurodivergent. And because the way that some TikToker or influencer is doing it is going to be different for you, and there can be so many different nuances. Mine also comes with a special feature of OCD because of religious trauma. It's very correlated, and I manage that with integrative mental health supplements and supports and things like that. And then, elements of PTSD and CPTSD and all of the things that are managed within me. And like that's me, and autoimmunity and all of that, managing all of those things. Um, so I can be here with more usable hours. And I like doing even quality of life, like usable functional hours, because it takes a lot of energy for somebody that's gone through like what I've experienced. um, it just takes a lot of energy. Again, with just the autoimmune conditions, my body's already working pretty hard already. And to accommodate oneself and the self advocacy and all that stuff. And so it has to come with radical boundaries too, and radical compassion, and anything that's not working, which for me I'm not working for an employer at this time. Um, because of some of those limitations and the expectations in America, which is like a 40-hour work week is 60, and it's like, what are we doing here? So it comes with all of these different elements that are often not touched on, and so I wanted to touch on that a little bit today, so you had some more information. I've been writing about this on Threads. I'm going to share this video over there as well, and on the social media site, so people can get access to this. If you have questions, when enough people ask questions, or if a question gets me so curious and I make a video, this video is in response to someone's question. And I wanted to put this information out there because so many people can't get access to this information. And what else? I have all this stuff in my brain. I may as well make use of it for someone that can use it, and do something with that, because there's not a lot of people speaking into the collective as to what do we really do, because a lot of people are getting really late diagnosed, and there's just a gap because the mental health therapists are not trained in neurodivergence, and I am, and so I'm going to be speaking to this to help the collective fill the gaps. There are Because of the ways that folks have been assessed, there wasn't allowed ADHD and autism to be diagnosed at the same time until 2013. And so a lot of people were missed, and a lot of women were missed, because a lot of women, especially with autism, my special interests are socially acceptable and people focused. um, and sometimes too, with ADHD, it can, and again, it looks like, and again, can looks like a mental health condition, and you can have that, and you can have trauma and anything else, and that's where there's so much variance, even within one person to another person, and you have to take into context their lived experience, their culture, their religion or spirituality, and the country that they're living in. Social norms are very different in different places. and all of that. But what's common a lot of times is that internalized ableism, the things that society says about anyone that's different gets internalized and lodged within you. And so part of you is attacking you even when you're like, well, I accept this, I get this, but still this like voice that's like kind of mean and berating comes up. That's the one I'm talking about. And that's some trauma that we do still have to process in order to come to compassion within oneself and to be authentic, right? Like to really be authentic and be like, I'm talking to you about why I'm wearing a cotton shirt, and I rip out the tags and all of that. And there's no shame in my system about any of that, because my goodness, why would I wear a scratchy shirt if I'm already feeling things like 5, 10 times more than the average human? No, I'm not going to do that. And who cares? It's, I don't have any judgment for me, so why would anyone else? And anyone else that has judgment towards me, congratulations, they're not me. It's up to me. I hope to be an example and a model for people, that if someone is saying something nasty, even if I get some nasty comments here, I'm not going to internalize those comments. They don't mean anything. That person doesn't know me. What I've been through, I know me and what I've been through, and I'm going to carry my head high, and I'm going to honor myself and my process. And if someone has something nasty to say, that says more about them than it does about me. And what's true for me is true for you too. So if someone's saying something nasty to you about you, we really have to make sure that we do not take on the voices of our abusers and the voices of our tormentors in taking that. And we can have many of them already lodged within our mind, body, spirit, already, because so many people have gone for so long not understanding why stuff is so hard for them, why they are trying to learn and work and parent and be and things, because most of the information is just for one brain type, one neurotype. There are many. There have always been many. There will always be many, because we need diversity of thought. What? Diversity of thought? Oh my God. We need some innovation. We need people marching to the beat of their own drums, right? So, neurodivergent people are necessary, all right? And it's a process. Give yourself grace. It is such a process. It is for me to make this video, it has taken me 30 years to speak to you these words, okay? Full of, and with no judgment. It has taken me 30 years. And it's been a beautiful process of understanding and being my authentic self. And I did not arrive on day one. Oh no. It's taken a beat. So hopefully this has helped someone, and I hope to jump on here more often and give some more information. And if you've got a question, go ahead and ask, and I'm happy to get curious with you, because I'm here to help, educate. My goodness, what else do you do with this information? Plus, these videos are they're way easier than typing. I find them way more, way less spoons, and they work within my style of learning. We have different styles of learning. That's a whole other one. I can actually do 700 more videos. So stay tuned. Bye.